Zen Buddhism and Nestorianism. Series 21. The Way of Suchness. Jesus replied to the disciples of John the Baptist, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see. The blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cured, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is preached to the poor. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on account of me." Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verses 4-6. Passionless teaching. The founder of the Soto Zen school, Zen Master Dongshan Liangjie, who had studied, under Master Lingyemo, at Mount Wuxia of Zhejiang province, and had been ordained, at the age of 21, journeyed on foot, all over the country. He met Master Guishan, after visiting Master Nanquan. Liangjie said to Guishan, "I have just heard that, there is a way of teaching, through passionlessness, that is being practiced by the national teacher Nanyang Huizhong, but I have not yet understood its real meaning." Guishan told him plainly its meaning, saying, "I teach it here too. However, I have not yet found the man, to whom I can teach it." But Liangjie did not understand, and urged Guishan to tell him about it. Then Guishan explained its meaning more kindly. "My mouth, which was given me by my parents, never dares to utter a word." However, Liangjie still did not notice it, and continued to ask, "Is there anyone else besides you, who has also devoted himself to this teaching?" Guishan might have thought, there is still somewhat good in this young man. He advised, "When you leave here, and come to a place, where there are stone chambers connected with each other, you will find their master Yunyan. Here this is." When Liangjie came to Yunyan, he asked him, "What kind of man is able to hear the teaching of Dharma through passionlessness?" Yunyan replied, "It is one's own passionlessness, which can hear the teaching of Dharma, through passionlessness." Liangjie asked, "Can you hear it?" Master Yunyan said, "If I can hear it, then you will not hear me, teaching the Dharma." Liangjie replied, "If this is so, it means that, I do not hear you teaching the Dharma." Master Yunyan challenged him, "When I taught the Dharma, even you did not hear it. How can you expect to be taught by passionlessness?" Thereupon, Liangjie composed a gatha, and presented it to Yunyan. "It is strange indeed. It is strange indeed. Dharma taught by passionlessness, is beyond the imagination. Listening through your ear, you cannot understand, but you will be aware of it, by listening with your eyes." After presenting the gatha, Liangjie asked leave of Master Yunyan, who said to him, "Where are you going?" Liangjie replied, "Although I am leaving you, I have no idea where my next stop will be." And asked, "After you have passed away, how can I answer someone, if he wants me to describe what you were like?" Yunyan leaned his face closer to Liangjie and replied, "Here this is." Liangjie could not understand, and kept silent for a while. Yunyan said to him again, "You must be very careful, as you are carrying this great thing. He is not other than myself." Liangjie was still puzzled. Later, when he was crossing the water, and saw his image reflected, he suddenly understood the teaching of Yunyan. Thus he made the following gatha. "You should not search it through others. If you do, the truth will become more remote from you. But when alone I proceed through myself. Everywhere I go, I meet him, the way, or the truth. Now, he is not other than myself. Yet, I am not he. Only if you understand this, will you identify with Tat Hata." The Way of Suchness. After a quite long period of time, one day, on the occasion of offering food to the portrait of Master Yunyan, a monk asked Master Liangjie, "Is this portrait not what our late master meant, when he said that, this is?" "Yes, it is," Master Liangjie answered. What did this mean when Master Yunyan said it? Asked the monk. I almost misunderstood him when he said it, replied the master. I wonder whether the late master knew the truth, continued the monk. If he did not know it, he would have tried to tell the way of suchness. If he did know it, he would have only done suchness inexpressibly. Suchman, Inmo no Hito. Yunju Shan Hongju Dashi, one of Zen masters in Tang dynasty of China, said, if you wish to attain suchness, Inmo in Japanese, Nenmi in Hanyu Pinyin, you should be a suchman. If you have been a suchman, why should you afraid suchness? Unsurpassable enlightenment. Dogen Zenji, the founder of the Japanese Soto Zen school, in his book Shobogenzo, explains that Hongju Dashi tentatively described the unsurpassable enlightenment as Inmo. According to his explanation, all things in Jinjapokai, the world of 10 directions, north, south, east, west, southeast, northeast, northwest, southwest and up and down, are embodiment of the unsurpassable enlightenment. The unsurpassable enlightenment cannot be contained in Jinjapokai, and is overflowing from it. We are also part of Jinjapokai. We can recognize ourselves as Inmo, because our bodies are manifested as objects in Jinjapokai. At that time, the body is already non-ego, the life also flows in time, and does not stop, even for a moment. A rosy youth in the morning may become crumbling bones in the evening. One's words may flow from his heart. The change of heart is the way of the world. It is impossible to keep the mind. But one may make up his mind to abandon his habit, enter the priesthood, and try to listen the things never heard, and testify the truth never testified before, without reason. These do not come from him, but from Inmo. Because he is a suchman, Inmo no Hito. And one can recognize himself as suchman, because he wishes to attain suchness. And once one can recognize himself as suchman, you need not to afraid suchness. There are various Inmo. Shoshiki, sound and appearance Inmo as the object of perception, Shinshin, body and heart Inmo as the entity of perception, and Shibutsu, Buddha's Inmo which sublates host and guest, etc. Even if there are Inmos which cannot measure with scales of Buddha Dhatu, sphere, Dharma Dhatu, and form Dhatu, you need not afraid it. Because you are already Inmo no Hito, suchman. Then Dogen Zenji summarized, saying, one who fell down on the ground, does not doubt that he fell down on the ground, when he stands up with his hand on the ground. Shobogenzo Chapter 17, Inmo. Turning the light inwards, illuminating the self. Dogen Zenji also advises in his scripture Fukanza Zengi, the way of Zazen, recommended to everyone. Originally, the way, truth, is complete and universal. You need neither practice nor testimony. The vehicle of reality is in the self. Why should we waste our efforts, trying to attain it? Omit. Therefore cease studying words and following letters. Learn to withdraw, turning the light inwards, illuminating the self. Doing so, your body and mind will drop off naturally, and original self will become manifest. If you wish to attain suchness, practice suchness immediately. Chinese Zen master Xiangyan, upon hearing the sound of the hitting the bamboo, instantly experienced vast enlightenment. In India, Buddha was enlightened upon seeing Lucifer, while sitting under the Bodhi tree, and testified, "Holy am I alone throughout heaven and earth. Grass, trees, and the domains of all living things, all attain Buddhahood." According to a legend, Buddha was enlightened upon eating yogurt given by Sujata. For Buddha, which was Inmo, Lucifer, a pretty girl Sujata or yogurt? It is left to your imagination. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on account of me. After Herod Antipas, the Tetrarch of Galilee, had imprisoned John the Baptist, at the fortress Machaerus, near the Dead Sea, Jesus chose 12 disciples as his apostles, and embarked on a systematic missionary activity. Gospel of Matthew chapter 10 verses 1 to 42. When John heard in prison what Christ was doing, he sent his disciples to ask him, "Are you the one who was to come, or should we expect someone else?" Jesus replied, "Go back and report to John what you hear and see: the blind receive sight, the lame walk, those who have leprosy are cured, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the good news is preached to the poor. Blessed is the man who does not fall away on account of me." Gospel of Matthew chapter 11 verses 2 to 6. Jesus' Kingdom. As John's disciples were leaving, Jesus began to speak to the crowd about John. "What did you go out into the desert to see? A reed swayed by the wind? If not, what did you go out to see? A man dressed in fine clothes? No, those who wear fine clothes are in kings' palaces. Then what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, 'I will send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you.' I tell you the truth, among those born of women, there has not risen anyone greater than John the Baptist, yet he who is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven has been forcefully advancing, and forceful men lay hold of it. For all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. And if you are willing to accept it, he is the Elijah who was to come. He who has ears, let him hear." Gospel of Matthew chapter 11 verses 7 to 15. Jesus made the people, who would live in his kingdom, known to us as the spiritual ones, just as Jesus himself, who was at the Father's side, but was not born of a woman, through describing John the Baptist as the greatest among those born of women, yet he who was least in the kingdom of heaven was greater than he. Jesus also warned that, from the days of John the Baptist until then, the spiritual new kingdom had been forcefully advancing, and forceful men laid hold of it. This warning reflects not only the confrontation with Jewish radicals, who accused the group of traitor, because they had escaped from Jerusalem, before being surrounded by the Roman army, but also the infighting between Hellenists and Hebraists, which became manifest, from the inception of Jerusalem Church's inauguration. Rebuilding of the Gospel. As a result of the First and the Second Jewish War, which occurred in AD 66 and 70 respectively, not only Jerusalem Church disappeared, but the Temple and the city of Jerusalem itself were also completely destroyed. In the 4 Gospels of the New Testament, that were completed one after another, after the Jewish War, seem to reflect how the different groups, which had led the early church movement, digested these setbacks. These groups may have included the most of Hebraists of the Jerusalem Church, who had led by Simon, the younger brother of James the Less, fled the city, just before siege by Roman army, and withdrawn to Pella. The Hellenists belonged to the Antioch Church, which had been led by Barnabas and Mark, the group of the Gentile Church, led by the Paul, who had already died at that time, and Luke, the group led by Peter, who is said to have been executed in Rome around the same time of Paul's execution, the group led by John, the son of Zebedee, who is said to have been exiled to an isolated island Patmos in the Aegean Sea, and the Gnostic group represented by Thomas, Nathanael, Philip, and perhaps Judas of Iscariot, etc. A new concept of the Jesus kingdom rebuilt by them can be seen in the above description of the Gospel of Matthew, which seems to have been compiled by the group that had taken refuge to Pella, under the Herodian royal family. The Spirit of Truth. Gnosticism also impacted the Mahayana Buddhism movement in India. Especially, the baptism of the Holy Spirit appears not only to have blossomed as the cultures of Zen Buddhism in China and Japan, after having conveyed to India by Thomas, but also to have contributed to the birth of Islam. Muhammad is said to have been convinced that he was the prophet, and the Spirit of Truth, whom the Deuteronomy and the Gospel of John have had predicted the emergence, in the chapter 18 verse 15 and the chapter 14 verse 16 respectively, and founded Islam. Quran chapter 7 verse 157, chapter 61 verse 6. Mr. Pichai's proposal. Google's India-born CEO, Sundar Pichai, who had recently been picked for the top job by its founder Larry Page, last week waded into a hot-button political topic in the U.S. of allowing Muslim immigrants into the country, with an unequivocal statement that called for greater tolerance and open-mindedness. SEA News December 25, 2015 Art 0.45592. Mr. Pichai says on the blog, "I walk around the campus where I work, and see a vibrant mix of races and cultures. Every one of those people has a different voice, a different perspective, a different story to tell. All of that makes our company an exciting and special place to be, and allows us to do great things together. We are urgently working to become much more diverse, because it's so important to our future success. I firmly believe that, whether you're building a company or leading a country, a diverse mix of voices and backgrounds and experiences leads to better discussions, better decisions, and better outcomes for everyone. The open-mindedness, tolerance, and acceptance of new Americans is one of the country's greatest strengths and most defining characteristics." He also says, "That is why it's so disheartening to see the intolerant discourse playing out in the news these days, statements that our country would be a better place without the voices, ideas, and the contributions of certain groups of people, based solely on where they come from, or their religion." And he calls, "Let's not let fear defeat our values. We must support Muslim and other minority communities in the U.S. and around the world." Mr. Pichai seems to have realized that the campus of the universities of the United States had inherited the tide of syncretism, which had brought up Christianity, Mahayana Buddhism, Islam, and Zen culture following the East expedition of Alexander the Great. SEA News January 2, 2016.